There we go.
There we go. Thank you, StreamYard. Hello, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Joe and I are preparing for snow today, apparently. Yeah, they're saying it's thunder snow tonight.
Supposedly, fun snow. Okay.
Hey, enjoy.
Yeah, hey, great. Temperatures are drop below freezing, and there you go. So
that's great.
And we bring Kevin back into the thing here. Okay, Russ, start us off with the pre-show.
I'm getting like 72 degrees on Saturday. All right. Let's talk about March baseball and how we feel about it, because it's like, I don't know. I'm always crazy. I like opening day. I'm gonna watch. There's no question. But my brain still hasn't really switched into full baseball year. I've written about it. I've been writing about it. I've done predictions for the NL. You know, we posted on Full Press, both Mike and I, Full Press coverage. But my brain still is like, doesn't feel like it's the start of the baseball season yet. It doesn't feel natural, and I'll watch tomorrow. But I still think it really takes into a certain amount of April for me to get there. I don't know about you guys.
Well, okay, I'll go to you, Kevin. But I'll just say this: let's see, the first is Saturday, so next Tuesday is the opening day for the Buffalo Bisons, and I normally go. I looked at the weather, and it said 40 degrees and possible rain. It's like, okay, I'm good for about 2 innings at 40 degrees and possible rain, and then I'm looking for I like July baseball, Kev, like we enjoyed last year when we went to Detroit and Chicago. Actually, it was August. I like that. I don't like April or March baseball. It's just too damn cold.
Yeah, I mean, and I respect those who feel that way, but I'm a baseball guy, so to me, baseball season is when pitchers and catchers report, and right. I have just fond memories. I was a kid. I've mentioned before, I lived a block from an ice cream place called the Tasty Freeze, and they always opened when pitchers and catchers reported. So that's how I always knew. You'd see the sign up in the Tasty Freeze says opening February 12th, and then I'd say, okay, pitchers and catchers are reporting. Right. So I'm really used to it. Like, I'm wishing people.
What did Tasty Freeze do during the strike?
I have no idea. I was, long into adulthood by that point.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, that was in my hometown. I don't live in my hometown anymore. So, but yeah, I mean, I wish happy opening day eve to those who practice. I look forward to tomorrow with the Yankees are playing, and the Tigers are coming up. I'm getting all my fantasy teams in order, and my baseball one. It's the only one that all the other sports I've sort of given away. Like, I don't even own a fantasy football team anymore, and I used to be in several. But baseball, I still have multiple teams and multiple leagues. I've been in 2 leagues for over 30 years. I'm in. So I'm in 3 so this is a big thing. Like, I feel baseball-ish already. Yeah. I'm into it. So I'm looking at who got cut, that sort of thing.
We're planning on doing a show, I'm announcing it now. We're planning on doing a show early tomorrow because I'm going somewhere to watch the Yankees opening day and have some wings. That's my opening day tradition. I mean, I'm excited about the change. Some of the changes, the Ghost Runner thing, I wish would be just gone. But I want to see how quick the game is and how that affects things. What excites you about the
listen, people have been killing the pitch clock thing. Mike, you and I watch tons of Bison's games. The pitch clock works, man. It works. Yeah. I love early season baseball. I get excited about it. Like, I'm actually going to Tigers opening day because the Sabres are playing in Detroit that day.
Okay.
So making a full day of sports that day. But
Comerica's a great ballpark. I love it.
Yeah. The last time I was there was for the alumni game in 2014 between the Wings and Leafs. So that's my one experience at Comerica. But I remember sitting at an April night. I think it was a night game at Salem Field and looking around and being like, I bet I can count everybody here right now. Like, it was about 38 degrees out. It's cold. Every shot in on the hands, it's just, you can tell guys are just dying every time they get one in the hands. But I'm counting up heads and I'm like, there's about 73 fans here tonight. So good on us for sticking it out.
Well, not to bring the conversation that we had previous to going live, but I'll just say this: the only opening day that I've ever been at was up in Toronto. There was a Puck Talks event up there, and I was part of one of the panels, and the Yankees were playing the Blue Jays. That was the first year they had Stanton. And Stanton, I think, hit a home run that day. Okay. So the reason I bring up that is because the notable event was I had a temporary crown on a tooth, and I bit into a Blue Jays chicken finger, and the temporary crown was no longer temporary. It was gone.
You've held that against them ever since, too.
Yes. Well, excuse me. When chicken fingers are as hard as friggin' diamonds, then yeah, I mean, I have a problem. But
this guy, he gets diamond crowns in his mouth. Wow.
Maybe your teeth are as soft as the Leafs playoff defense.
Ooh. Hello, Hockey World.
Yes.
It is Wednesday, March 28th.
No.
29th.
There you go.
Hockey World, it is Wednesday, March 29th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm here to correct all of Eklund's mistakes.
I'm Joe Yard, and I'm here to plug my ears anytime somebody talks about teeth.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen, and I want to talk about teams with 100-point scorers, and we'll have a little trivia because I'll bet you'll get it wrong because I did.
I love it, Kev. Thank you for bringing actual hockey content to the table today. Now you always do, but no, that sounded wrong.
Well, I want to talk about Kevin
as opposed to
talk about first. Oh, I'm sorry.
As opposed to teeth. Yeah, let's start with Kevin, and then we will get into.
And then I want to ask the two people who weren't on the show yesterday about our discussion from yesterday without tainting their minds. I want to get their honest opinion, and then but we'll start with what Kevin.
I'm sure you'll frame it very fairly, Mike. Okay, Kevin, continue.
Well, I mean, for those that maybe didn't see NHL Network this morning, the Edmonton Oilers won a big game against the Golden Knights, but the big story of that game was a 5-point performance. Now, if you say that and just say, your natural assumption is Connor McDavid did it.
Right.
And if he didn't do it, then it was Draisaitl.
Right.
But then there's the other guy. And the guy that's sort of hidden in the shadows, and that's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who now has 96 points.
I couldn't believe that when I saw that.
96 points he has. And they're about to become a team with 3 100-point scorers. Now, first of all, the first is how many teams in NHL history have had 3 100-point scorers, and when was the last time someone did it?
Oh, man. I'm going to say it was the Rangers in 93. It's that era.
No.
Okay.
No, that's a no.
I'm gonna say the Penguins.
Are you looking it up or?
No.
I'm not looking it up. I'm trying to think.
I'm just wondering whether it's the Crosby Malkin Penguins or the Lemieux Yager Penguins.
Well, the answer is the Penguins, so it's good that you got that.
It's not the Crosby Malkin Penguins, though.
Yeah, no, because
It's gotta be when they had Francis.
Yeah,
Coffee.
that's
Coffee,
it. Francis
Lemieux,
and Lemieux and
Yeah.
Yager.
Was it Joey Mullen?
Joey Mullen,
Yeah.
maybe? Yeah.
You guys actually did better than I did. I thought for sure it was Kevin Stevens. Like, I knew it was the Penguins.
Right.
And I said, oh, yeah, well, it was Yager, Lemieux, and Kevin Stevens. I was so sure of that. And it turned out it was indeed, Ron Francis.
Yeah.
So kudos for pulling that out.
I wouldn't have gotten Francis. I would have gotten Lemieux and Yager.
I only pulled him out because he's always forgotten and he's always had a lot.
Yeah, well, he's the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins of that
He
trio.
is.
Yeah. But the thing I was going to add about that, you know what year that was?
It had to be one of the cup years.
Francis would have been 90.
91, 91.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually it was 95, 96. And
96.
20, but still 27 years since we've had three.
We've been a long time without a 100 scorer, Kevin, remember?
No, I mean, I realize that, but it still seems like that's 3 decades almost. And how many teams have done that? 3 100-point scorers?
8 or 9?
There'll be 14. Team number 14, and most of them are obviously the Oilers and Oilers teams and Penguins teams.
Right.
So.
That's awesome.
There's a chance to be like, there's a chance to have 10 guys with 100 points this year.
Well, and the remarkable thing about that is that Nugent Hopkins really doesn't play on McDavid's line. He plays on some power plays, but he doesn't play on his line.
He actually did last night.
He did last night. Okay.
Yeah, he played with McDavid
really
last night.
about this because my good friend Dan Wallace, who's our Minnesota Wild blogger, who was in my wedding and a really nice guy, super friendly and super friend of mine. We used to go. We had season tickets next to them for 20 years in the Spectrum. He brought up something around this time, Kevin, in 1997, 98, which is when the Devils started coming on. They really started to pour it on, right? And right after that 100-point game. And he had said that his feeling was that the way the Devils played would destroy hockey for 20 years.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this comment. I'm like, wow, that's pretty. And we were, talking about, we were just out of college, we're sitting at the game. It's like, and neither of us worked in hockey or anything like that. And he just said, the way the Devils are playing right now, this will destroy hockey for the next 20 years because they'll manage to win this way and there will be no going back. And little did we know that was so prophetic. It's crazy.
Well, hockey's still here, Joe.
It destroys hockey scoring, though. It destroyed hockey scoring big time.
Yeah, I think that's fair because and it wasn't actually the neutral zone trap. What it was the dedication on defense. Yeah. That was about the time that coaches started, instead of talking about great offensive plays, started talking about shutting down offense, and that was everybody's goal. And I always say this jokingly, but it almost feels like that happened. On a Tuesday night, in November, reporters started running to the TVs to look at replays, and instead of talking about what a great offensive play, they started jabbering about who's responsible for giving up that goal, who made the mistake. Now, the reason reporters started doing that was because coaches always talked about that. Right. After the game, when you talk about a goal, they talk about, there was a breakdown. Yeah. Then we started saying, well, wait a minute. Well, who's responsible for that breakdown?
I'm going to tell you this.
Be responsible for this.
The one market that is famous for wanting to figure out every last deflection and not blame the goalie is Philly. They're always looking for, oh, wait, look, that was deflected. Oh, wait, that's not the goalie's fault. And they do it every game. It's just, I've never seen anything.
Yeah. Funny, Russ, I was on with them the other day on that one. I did that Orange and Black podcast and talked about the Flyers for an hour, which was very therapeutic in a lot of ways.
I always talk about too, and I love the man. Mickey Redmond is an institution as an analyst in Detroit. But I swear there's no greater level of excitement in Mickey Redmond's voice as when he spots a deflection or a hit a defender. He goes, right there, he yells. And he sees it on the replay,
Was he with Dave Strader for a long time, Kevin?
Pardon me?
Weren't Redmond and Strader a combination for a while?
Redmond's just been there forever.
Dave Strader was there.
Yeah, he was there, but he predated Ken Daniels.
Does that paranoia?
When I was a kid, I remember my dad listening to the Detroit Red Wings on the radio, and I thought it was Strader and Redmond. And I remember that. I remember the deflection thing so clearly.
Does that paranoia in Philadelphia go back to that disputed Leclerc goal against the Sabres?
No, this is the media that does this. I'm the only one that sits around and it doesn't matter. The goal went in, and they're like, oh, look, it deflected off that.
The Flyers have had. Well, Russ,
you don't let the guy in the crease, it won't happen.
I wrote this article one time, Russ, and I don't remember the exact number. I'm going to guess. But during the period of time that the Flyers had, that the Devils had Marty Brodeur, the Flyers had 13 goalies. It was this crazy thing that occurred during that.
Mike McKenna was one of them. They
had so many goalies, and that was after a real big early Flyers were kind of defined by great goaltending. They were Bernie Perron, to Pelly Lindbergh, to Hextall, even Bob Froese. Remember, these guys were
Stevenson,
Reverend Bob Froese.
Reverend Bob Froese now, yep. But or is he still alive? Yeah, I think so.
Ron Hextall.
But Ron Hextall, right? And so
who's not a reverend?
No, not even close.
Not before game. He might be a reverend of something. But so that's the thing about the Flyers, Russ. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And the thing about that is, do you remember them? The Devils didn't play the trap, as we called it, the trap. It was. Do you remember the first team that really played the trap and succeeded with it?
Well, the Devils did play the neutral zone trap.
Yeah, they
played
1-2-2.
But the Canadiens back in the day.
They didn't call it there was a time
it was from there chomping on his gum.
It was the left wing lock.
No, that was the Red Wings.
That's always been the Red Wings. But no, the trap was not like I don't remember. I remember the Devils not calling it. At least my memory wasn't not calling it like where teams not.
It was the trap.
Devils are playing the trap.
No. I mean, it was definitely Lemaire act for sure. Yeah.
I mean, but the team that I remember that first had the most success with the trap that made everybody crazy were the Florida Panthers.
Well, yeah. Well, they shut down the Penguins in the playoffs that year.
That was
they followed the Devils. Devils set the path for everybody in 95 Detroit.
Right.
And then we can do it better. And then
the Panthers did it after the Devils.
Yeah. But they called it the trap. Everybody referred to it as a trap. Where I think with the Devils, people, I don't know, at least my memory of it, and I hated the Devils, so I would have loved to have been saying they were playing the trap.
Yeah.
My memory of it was, at least from my memory, was Brodeur was just so good you didn't.
But in that Stanley Cup final, where Stevens decked Kozlov and then went down the bench and asked the Red Wings who was going to be next, which is one of the, I think that's never got enough attention. Like I thought that was an amazing event. Can you imagine just, in today's game, you just knock out a guy, then go down to the bench and say, which one of you guys wants to be next?
Yeah. That's like the WWE thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because, actually someone argued with me the other day about the Miracle on Ice team, whether or not they played a trap. And I don't think they really did. They sort of played.
They did not.
They played the counter game that
they were a counterattack fast team.
Right. That you've seen from the Penguins over the past several years. The Penguins are that counterattack team. The Vegas Golden Knights were a counterattack team when they're rookie season.
Yeah, the Miracle on Ice was a transition team.
Right.
And one of the things they did, which people didn't see a lot of in North America, was crisscrossing wingers. If you remember, the
drop pass, Kevin.
They like to, you started out on the right side, but then you'd cross over and all that. But I got another oddity from last night.
Yeah.
That we don't see very often, and it occurred, and we've now seen it twice in 3 weeks. And before that, we only saw it once in 5 years.
Right.
Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
The coach being ejected.
Yeah. Because we've had Quinn and Lalone, and the only other guy since 2018 was John Cooper.
Now, Kev, let me ask you, because I saw the replay of this, and I want to get Joe in on this too. The replay showed that I did not see the puck go over the goal line, but I guess the assumption was the puck was under the pad and the pad was over the goal line.
There was no. We saw it on the video board.
Okay.
Yeah, the puck from that one angle, you could see the puck laying over the line. Now, I've been sort of schooled that if you're looking at it like head on, you can be fooled.
Yeah.
You could see it. I mean, there was the line, and then the puck was behind it. But
that is, Kevin? I was told why that is.
The parallax.
That is that way because remember the line is 2 inches below the ice. So between the puck and the ice, between the puck and the line, there's ice, right? So you have 2 inches there. So you can have the puck on top of that ice and see a clear spot through the line where you don't see the line, but it's not over the line.
Well, the other thing about that was so remarkable after the game. Well, first of all, anybody, and he likes to be, I never refer to him as this, but he likes to be called Newsy Lalone. Newsy is a very.
I've always called him Derek too. Like I've known him.
I still do. I have never once used Newsy. But everybody does. His players do. Bob Bugner took over and he met with the media and he just said, Newsy was emotional, I don't know whether Eisenman calls him Newsy or not.
Well, but his video should be sped up in black and white.
Yeah. But anyway, he's a very respectful guy, very professional. So it was odd that, and not that he can't get worked up because, there's video of him out there saying, I don't even know what effing goalie interference is anymore. But saying all that, both Buchner and I know Larkin phrased it saying, it was surprising because I've heard a lot worse between between coaches and officials, and so it wasn't much. And the other thing Larkin said, which is so true, is Lalone just when he got thrown out, he just turned away, handed his clipboard to his coaches and very professionally marched off the bench. And Larkin made a point of that. So,
Joe, is this getting to be like baseball, where the managers are getting kicked out, like the coaches are getting kicked out in hockey?
The whole thing about that entire situation that kills me is that it's very clear Zucker's pushing his pads over the line because he knows the puck's under the pad. So he's just, guys are going to do that. I can't blame him. It's very obvious he's doing it. Nobody sees where the puck is because it's under his leg pad. And, Derek obviously going off, dropping the F-bomb more times than in 30 seconds than I think I have in a month. But I mean,
I challenge that.
Well, you might be right, Russ. But to me, it's the officials last night were Garrett Rank and Michael Markovic. I've seen these two guys in Buffalo a couple times, and boy, oh boy, there's been some calls, man. There have been some calls where I'm just kind of like, I don't know how you arrived at that judgment, but okay, buddy. But referees getting rabbit ears like that, and I mean, we're reading his lips very clearly. He's not degrading the referees. He's not calling them names.
Right.
Like that. He just wants an explanation.
Right.
Very aggressively wants an explanation.
Well, what's interesting about that is now I didn't see the actual play last night. Was it counted as a goal or not a goal?
It was said to be not a goal.
Right.
And then after replay, they said that you could see the puck over the line. It's a goal. So then Lalonde challenged on goalie interference. And, of course, that's always a flip of the coin.
Right.
And it's always an interpretation of the rules. And when he was done with that, he explained to me what goalie interference, because that seemed like a textbook case of goalie interference to me. Right. And they didn't see it that way.
I learned pretty quickly.
There was a point that it was under the pad, you could actually see the puck.
Yes, we could see it. It was on the video screen.
Okay, the famous Danny Briere against the Rangers in the playoffs. I'm sure you remember, Joe, like that. Yeah. When where it's obviously in Lundqvist's glove, obviously over the line, but they never called it a goal because you couldn't see the puck over the line.
Yeah, the thing with the view that they showed, and the NHL account that tweets the stuff about reviews and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
the picture they showed was from like ice level, looking sideways behind it, saying like, "Aha, see, there it is, it's over the line." Columbus and LA had a game, a few years ago, where that view looked like, oh, see, it's definitely over the line. I think it was maybe an overtime goal, if I'm thinking right. And you're looking at that view and you're like, whoa, hey, yeah, it's a goal. But then you go above it, and it's not over the line.
Yeah.
So, and like that play last night, you can't go above it because his pad's over the puck. So you can't tell above where it is. So like, to me, it's inconclusive. I don't know if they called it a goal initially and it's inconclusive, like, okay. But the official coming out of the replay saying, we did not find goalie interference. Well, that's not what the NHL said was being reviewed. They reviewed whether or not it was a goal. So
no. They didn't look at that, but then Lalonde challenged, and then they went back. They went back and looked at goalie interference, and then came out and said, no goalie interference. And Lalonde goes, well, then I don't know what goalie interference is anymore.
Right. No, and nobody does. See, that is my problem. That is my problem. I mean, the one thing that was cleared up with the offside rule is that I don't know if I've seen one offside call this year that's really been heavily disputed. So they've sort of solved that. But the goalie interference,
you're never going to solve.
And the one that drives me absolutely batty is the distinct kicking motion. You're going to have a riot in the playoffs if one of these teams gets screwed by a subjective call by an official.
Yeah.
Well, the only way, it's funny, we just had this conversation not this game, but the game before. There was Paul Woods, who played in the NHL, was there, and we were talking about the only way you're going to solve that problem. You're never going to solve goalie interference because it's always going to be subjective.
Right.
But you could do it if you just say anything goes.
Yep.
If it hits your foot, it's a goal. If you kick it, it's a goal. If it crosses the line, it's a goal. Now,
right. That's it. I agree.
There's actually, but one of the reasons this would be interesting. One of the reasons they changed that rule 179 years ago, or whatever the hell it was, was that they were afraid that players were going to get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's going to fall on the ice, and some player is going to go in there and just take his skate and
Slash
kick
his
to
neck.
get
Yeah,
the
slash
goal.
his neck with his skate while he's trying to get
Yeah, and someone's going to get cut. That's the only reason
Yep.
that they said that. But that is really the only reason, because
Yeah.
it's still subjective whether or not you pointed your toe, your blade, or if you
with the amount of padding now and goalies wearing masks. I mean, come on, like, this is like completely to me. I remember it was a couple of years ago in the playoffs. I forget what it was. One of the Flyers European players who tried to headed the puck into the net. Like literally, like it was just like a soccer play. It comes up the air and he heads it into the net.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I pointed this out to Russ and I sent him the link. And in the game between the Leafs and Nashville, the puck was shot around the boards, and Mitch Marner headed the puck off the glass to Austin Matthews, breaking on a 2-on-1.
That was sick.
Yeah.
I mean, please. I mean, I've seen goaltenders do that, but that was the first time I saw a player do it.
I'm of the mindset that everything should be allowed. Just allow everything. Kev, you don't have a problem that way. There's no issue.
Yeah. No, well, you can't goalie interference. That won't change it. But
interference, no. But I'm talking about if it goes
no.
your body in any way, shape, or form.
You make a point, and like it's if a defenseman falls down, it will be dangerous. But I don't know when guys get hurt.
You can't hand it in. You can't hand it in. That would be something. But besides using your hands, which I think would be a problem.
Right.
If your hand's on your stick, you can hit your hand. That's fine. But if your hand's in the air and then you hand it in, that I think's wrong, right? But and that's like a soccer thing. But if it goes off your face in soccer, like if anyone would watch the last episode of Ted Lasso saw or whatever, it's allowed. It's completely allowed. So that's great.
Let me ask Joe about one of the other games last night, because I was really watching a lot of the Tampa Bay Carolina game, because I thought that was the best matchup last night. Yeah. And Rob Brindamore's really got a tough decision over the next couple weeks, because I thought the way Kochetkov was playing the last week or so, or a couple of weeks since he's been called up, he would put in his mind that I got to go with this guy, because he was playing, like, he made 40 some odd saves against Toronto. He was playing really well. And then last night, he laid an egg against Tampa Bay. It wasn't a great performance. And I'm just wondering whether Brindamore is going to go to the comfort zone of the experienced Freddie Anderson, or if he's going to roll the dice on Kochetkov.
To me, it's a slam dunk choice. I think you have to go with Kochetkov. I know Freddie's good when he's on. I can't trust him to stay healthy. When he's on and he's healthy, I can't trust that. They've already been down this road a couple of times. With Ronta last year, with I forget who it was a couple of years ago, but Kachekhov's the new guy. Like he's
Mrazek.
Yeah, that's right. It was Mrazek. Right. But Kachekhov's, you've signed him long term. He's your guy for you're moving ahead with. Freddie's a free agent. I think Ronta's a free agent too.
Yeah.
So
Freddie's hurt.
Yeah. So Kachekhov's your guy. Run with him. I don't see a reason to hold back from him, and he's played better than both of them.
I think that his stubbornness, he'll put Freddie Anderson in the first game.
I 100% agree, because the reality is this Carolina team is not, its window isn't closing. The window on this Carolina team, the window is opening still, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's open pretty wide right now, but it actually, if anything, it's still opening, which is incredible, right?
Well, all right. So I don't know.
I wrote a Bleacher Report. Sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I don't know if it's still opening, only because they have the same deficiencies every year. And no matter what they do, now, again, you could say it's because of an injury with Svechnikov, but you still should have overwhelming offense going into the playoffs, and they don't. Kochetkov, I thought preseason he was going to win the job. He didn't. I thought about a week ago he would win the job. He didn't. And I still think Brindamore is going to go with Anderson, because that's what Brindamore does until Anderson can't do it. And
Joe, to that point, Tampa Bay shut down Aho, and that basically shut down Carolina's offense. Yeah. And they're one-dimensional right now.
Well, that to me is Tampa Bay being smarter than everybody, because they've gone through it before. And I wrote on Bleacher Report. I don't know if it went up yet or not. I might be spoiling my own bit, but I said Carolina's one of the teams that has the most pressure going on them going into the playoffs, because we're talking they're probably going to win the division for the third straight year. 100 points again, and each year it's like, well, they ran into somebody who was hot. Well, you get over 100 points, man, you win a division. You're supposed to win. And if
you're not going to run into somebody who's hot.
No, well, yeah, not in the first round, anyways.
Exactly.
I mean, second round, I don't know about facing the Devils or the Rangers in the second round. That's not fun, but you got to get past the second round. I know for the Leafs, you can't get past the first round. Carolina can't get past the second.
Right, which is a nice
on this one, because I think that like the goal is always like, to me, why I bring up the window opening, window closing is your window's closing is when you use a goalie who's a veteran, who's at the who's on the last year of his contract, and you try to get because you're worried about that. But window opening, get this kid experience and let your team continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Kev?
I honestly think of the 4 division winners, they're the most vulnerable going into the first round. They could lose in the first round because they don't have Svechnikov. I don't think their offense is really hopping and they have questions of goal. Their defense is great. They can win close games, Kev, but I question their ability to generate enough offense. Puljujärvi stepping in for Svechnikov is not going to do it.
No, and they thought they had solved it all with the bringing in Pacioretty. And
right.
Obviously they've had bad luck with injuries. I mean, losing Svechnikov is a terrible loss for them.
Disaster.
Yeah. So, I mean, but who knows? I mean, we've seen teams kind of rally around like nobody believes in them. I mean, you've already seen, people, Joe just articulated it well with regard to people see them as a team that is vulnerable, they're likely to give up the ghost, and maybe they'll rally around that because they have a young goalie who can get hot. So if he gets the opportunity, who knows?
Your guy though in game 1, Kevin. Who's your guy in game 1?
Pardon me.
Who's your goalie in game 1?
I think he's going to go with Anderson, but it's it's just a guess because I think they feel like they can go to the young kid,
right?
But if they start with the young kid, what does that do for him? So I don't know. I mean, there's arguments both ways, even for that.
Then you've undercut the confidence of the veteran if you trade Kochetkov at the beginning. All right, I don't want to spend the entire second half of the show on this.
Can I frame it, Mike?
Yeah, you frame it, and then I'll destroy your frame.
All right, here was the argument that went on very passionately for way too long yesterday. We'll try to keep it. Which I just want to do Kevin and Joe's opinion on this because it was.
I'm going to give the counterpoint after you give your point.
Russ and I were on one side. Mike. Anyway, here we go. All right. I talking to people. Austin Matthews obviously is. He wants to stay in Toronto. There's no question about it. He wants to stay in Toronto, but he also doesn't want to be the face of a franchise that keeps losing in the first round. And if the fears of say he has an off round or something like that, and they lose again right now. He becomes he's an unrestricted free agent after next season. They still have him one more year, but on July 1st of this year, his no movement clause kicks in, and he could actually determine where he goes. My argument and Russ's argument, I'm pretty sure, was basically the same, which is that the Leafs don't have that much power in this situation, no matter how you slice it. And I'll finish this, Mike, because I know you want to jump in. And the other thing about that is I do think that I think they should probably they should try to get where Matthews wants to go, obviously. But if Matthews says, listen, I don't know. Because we have lost again. Even if you give me the most money, I don't want to keep being in this position. So say he goes through the season next year. Mike thinks you have to trade him. You have to at least
No. Let me frame what I'm doing.
I think that they won't. I think they will let him if in worst case scenario, they'll let him play out the season next year. They don't want to do that.
No way.
But I don't think they have much of a choice if he says no. That's my argument.
Okay. And my assertion is that yes, Matthews has most of the leverage before July 1st when the no movement clause is not in effect. He has all the leverage after July 1st, like John Tavares did in 2018 or going in 2017. And he wouldn't allow himself to be traded from the Islanders and then walked in free agency. If they go past July 1st with Matthews on the, they may continue to negotiate with him, but he has the opportunity to go into unrestricted free agency and field every offer from every team. So why wouldn't he do that? From the Leafs' point of view, I think they need a commitment from him before July 1st. If they don't get it, then I think at the draft they're gonna field offers to potentially trade him. They don't want to do that. They want to sign him to a long-term deal. They want to make him the highest paid player in the NHL. They want him to be the future captain, all that stuff. But I think what they do with Dubas, what the direction of the team is going to be, are all going to be factors in him signing. And that's why Dubas, even if they lose in the first round, may stay. But they need a commitment from him before July 1st. And if they don't, then I think they have to find out what they can get for him before July 1st comes around. Kevin?
It's kind of not up to Dubas, though, right? Like, if they don't get out of the first round, the ownership and Shanahan might be just like, all right, man, this ain't working. We're peace. See ya.
Right. But
I think Matthews too.
Yeah, but I look at that. I think that's just that mentality, Mike, is just a cover your butt kind of thing. I think that's just saying like, all right, well, listen, if he's got a hedge and haw about signing a long term and doing whatever here because XYZ reasons, can't get out of the first, whatever it is, you got to cover your own rear end. I mean,
thank you.
This is essentially where that comes in because and to me, that's just doing your job and doing your job right. But I mean, a new GM coming in and looking at the situation, I mean, who knows how they're going to look at things? I know every offseason it's like trade Nylander, trade Marge, do this, that, and the other thing. But when you get a new set of eyes in there running the show, you don't know what you're going to get.
All right, Judge Kevin Allen.
Well, I'm actually with Mike on this. I think that I remember after the Tkachuk situation came out, I remember a GM saying to me, this kind of formalizes what we all thought has to happen in this world of, salary cap situations where you've got to trade the guy the year before. You got to assess how he feels about it because you don't want to be like the Flames were with Gaudreau.
Right.
And we used to talk all the time about how that, that you do get something because you get cap space if you lose them, but it's not enough. And you lose the PR battle when you do that. So, Matthews would get a huge return. And you can do it if you're the Maple Leafs in such a way where you can be the good guys, too. You can go to Austin and say, where do you want to go? Because this is a unique situation. Whichever team is anointed as the place he wants to go, they're going to make this work. Because, if Matthews wants to go there, I want to get him now. I don't want to wait a year. So I think they would do that. But the other element is the coaching situation. I think if they don't make the playoffs, or not coaching, the GM situation, Dubas is gone anyway. So you're going to get a new GM. And he's probably going to think, we haven't gotten there with Matthews. Maybe it's time to get a bunch of assets and move it. So, and I just can't see a guy with like Matthews playing in a season where you're thinking if he gets hurt, we're not going to get anything for him. I mean, he's so valuable.
Right.
So,
and this may be overemphasized, but I have heard over the last few months that, it will be much easier for the Leafs to re-sign Matthews, to extend Matthews if Dubas is still the general manager because he likes Dubas. He buys into Dubas's vision. Yeah. Now, that may mean nothing to the MLS board. They may say, no, they haven't made the play. He's been general manager since 2018, and they haven't made the play. They haven't got past the first round for 5 consecutive years with him as GM. Sorry, but that might be a factor to them if they think that Dubas can get Matthews signed, whereas another GM may hem and haw because of
Sorry, let me counterpoint this real quick.
Yeah.
Kevin?
But thank you for the victory. I appreciate it.
My mouth is open and I can barely shut it after Kevin agreed with Mike on that one. Here's my thinking, Kevin. You're bringing Tkachuk and Gaudreau as apples and oranges. First of all, Gaudreau did not want to stay in Calgary. That was known. Okay, he was going to leave Calgary. Matthews wants to stay in Toronto. He likes it there. He wants to stay there, and he will stay there happily as long as they have a chance to. And it's not about money. As long as he sees them, as he said, Mike, you said it yesterday. As long as I see them making moves to continue to get better,
and they do, and they are,
and they do. But there's a point at which he's the scapegoat in this thing over and over and over again, right? If he has a great playoff and they lose, changes a little bit. I think they're going to beat Tampa, but that's regardless. Mike doesn't want to hear that at all. So here we go. But Tkachuk, okay. First of all, Gaudreau's going to go no matter what. And they had the best line in the NHL last year in Tkachuk, Gaudreau, and Lindholm. They were ridiculous. They were flying. They couldn't change. They couldn't make them. They couldn't move that. They couldn't break that line apart. They knew that when Gaudreau left, that you're going to lose Kachuk too, because if Gaudreau stays, maybe Kachuk stays, but you know that's going to happen. It's not a team like that's as good as Toronto is like right now, as close to winning. Like Toronto is a cup contender. Calgary was not a cup contender last year. In my mind,
out of the first round.
Sorry, but here's the thing. So like, and the MLS board, they're not going to let them trade Matthews. You're never going to get an equal return back on him.
No,
you're not. But you'll get something. You'll get something instead.
But then you're in a rebuild type situation.
I mean, look at what Calgary got for Kachuk, Joe. They got Huberdeau and they got Uyghur. That was a pretty damn good return for a guy who was 1 year away from walking for free.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that situation's never great. And I think the key to that is just you have to get out ahead of it, and you can't have negotiations be in public. Honestly, that's the biggest thing for it is to keep it out of the public eye. Just speaking on what I've seen in Buffalo. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Sam Reinhart. He was coming into the last year of a deal. He was going to be UFA after it. He wasn't sticking around. Things were a mess here. So it's like, trade him, get what you can, make the best deal you can and then go.
This is not Reinhardt. This is
this is a much bigger deal.
With most other players, 99.9% of the players, I'm 100% on the same page with Mike here. You got to do that. Even Tavares. Remember, it's not like the Tavares situation because the Islanders sucked when Tavares was there. They were doing terribly. They were not playing well, and he wanted to go. He wanted, and it was known. Even I talked to friends of his 3 years before that told me he was going to eventually play for Maple Leafs because they said he just really wants to play for the Maple Leafs. All right, so.
I mean, this isn't an O'Connell situation with Joe Thornton, where you're going to get 40 cents on the dollar for Austin Matthews. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
It's that type of deal is way too big to fall short and get a bunch of third liners and some, middling picks.
Yeah, I mean, you're using the idea that, this is Matthews, so you can, run it all the way till July 1st of his free agency. And I argue that this is Matthews, which is why you can't do that.
Exactly. No, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? He's so valuable. You can do that. I mean, Steve Yzerman is Steve Yzerman, but Dylan Larkin is not anywhere near Matthews. So the risk of doing what Yzerman did wasn't that great, to be honest.
The Leafs want Matthews to be eventually their captain. They want him to be the piece of the franchise for the next decade. They want him to break Matt Sundin's record for most points. All that stuff. They're willing to make him the highest paid player in the NHL. They want an 8-year deal. All those things. They just need a commitment of that before the no move clause, because then all the power goes into his hands.
And to be honest, they'll have a general idea of whether he's going to test the market or not, because they're going to say, we're going to make you the highest paid player. Are you in? And he's going to say yes or no. Like, if he says, I got to think about it.
I think that's what he's going to do. I don't think it's going to be as tidy as Mike hopes. I don't.
Yeah, but if it isn't, I don't know that you can risk that.
Right. Russ, you may be right, but then what they're going to do is what I'm saying they're going to do, because they can't risk him. They can't risk him going past July 1st and saying, "Oh, let's go. I'll talk to you in June." No. We need to find out now, because if you decide you want to walk, we're screwed. So we can't put you in that position to screw us.
Okay, but again, he also could see after you make all your changes that he wants to be there. So you're preempting him being able to make a decision, which may be the wrong decision. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, okay, Ross. So if they trade William after losing in the first round again, and they trade William Nylander because they're afraid they can't afford to re-sign him the following year, and Matthews doesn't like that, you're making Matthews the general manager.
Matthews is going to ask their camp, what do you have in store for this season? What do you think the plan is?
And I'm sure
get rid of Nylander, they may hint at that, but they may not. So we'll see. But the idea is, if you decide that you're not going to wait for Matthews to give his answer and just get rid of him, that could be the wrong decision too.
Now, Joe, I wanted to ask about the Sabres, because that shootout loss with Michael Pezzetta doing the Ty Domi imitation.
Tiger Williams.
Tiger Williams.
Tiger Williams. No, the Domi did the same thing too.
It was Tiger Williams' original.
Yeah,
I remember Tiger doing it, and that's why Domi did it, because it was. But
Meats guy over here.
Yeah. But now they're Pittsburgh lost yesterday. They're still 5 points out, but I think they needed to win that game against a bad Montreal team. And I'm wondering about Comrie should have made the save on, I can't remember who it was, the one that bled through his pads in the shootout.
Mm-hmm.
But Devin Levi, they're gonna play him, but are they gonna wait until they're eliminated to play him?
No, I don't think so. I think with Craig Anderson nursing an upper body thing right now, I mean, whatever, he's working through it. Granato said yesterday it's more like an hour to hour thing than it is day to day. So, I mean, I was like, listen, I'm north of 42, Don. I understand. Sometimes you just want to get out of bed and do stuff.
Yeah, my shoulder hurts too.
Right. So I don't think so. I think in the meantime that maybe whatever upcoming game was slated for Anderson, maybe Levi gets that one, which makes me think, and Lance and I talked about this on maintenance day just yesterday, might be this weekend. And listen, I thought the Montreal game was going to be his too. So take everything with a grain of salt that I say with that. But I don't know about the Rangers game but the Sabres have played much better against the Rangers than they have the Flyers. So I don't know which one you really you'd want to pick out of those two. But the rest of the schedule is not overly friendly. It's a lot of road games. And I've pretty much written in ink that the home finale against Ottawa is going to be Craig Anderson's game. So
I would do it against the Flyers because they don't generate nearly as many shots as the Rangers.
Right, they don't. I agree with that.
But also the Sabres have been outscored 9-2 by the Flyers in 2 games. So
I know that is, last year, Joe, if you remember, last year the Flyers were trying to make the playoffs, and it was 2 years ago maybe. The Flyers were trying to make the playoffs, and the Sabres were out of it, and the Sabres destroyed the Flyers a couple times down the stretch, basically ending their season. It's I know that there are some players on that team, having talked to them, that remember that.
Oh yeah. I mean, how can you not? I mean, that I think we're talking about the team that was the COVID shortened season.
Right.
Yeah. I think I covered a couple of those games up here with the Flyers, and I was like, who is this team? Why are they losing? Why are they getting punked out by the Sabres?
They were getting killed by the Sabres in games they had to win.
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous. Now, I have something along these lines because my article today is along the Sabres lines, so I'm kind of glad you're here, Joe. That's the only reason. But here's the thing. I was asking the question, and we can all kind of debate this. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but we can debate this. What trade deadline move has been the most consequential as of now? Right? Like we see. I mean, because obviously it's hard to judge these as we go down the line. And my argument was, well, which ones do you guys think has been the most? We'll go through the line here. Kevin, who do you think, Kev?
I guess it depends how far back you want to say the deadline move. I mean, the Campus Lindholm, because I think he's really just turned that defense, like he's kind of brought it all together.
Oh, you mean Orlov?
I mean this deadline. Go a month before this.
It's just a deadline.
Year's deadline. So I had limbo before that last year.
Are you talking about the Orlov deal with Boston, or are you because Lindholm was last deadline?
No, before, but I'm just saying, like, are we talking about this season?
I'm just talking about this season, like
this season
on these trades.
Yeah, no, it's not the Orlov deal then. Well, let me think about it just for a second.
Yeah,
so.
go ahead, Russ.
I'll go first because I think honestly the Gavrikov Korpisalo deal for the Kings have been shot out of a cannon since that deal, and it sort of provided the stability in goal that they didn't have with Quick. Yeah. And then, look at what Quick has done in Vegas. So it's sort of all tied in.
I'm going to go with.
Go ahead, Russ.
I'm going to go with, Hathaway and Orlov for Boston because that could win them the cup. Like, it's just that simple.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Matthias Ekholm for Edmonton. Like he's such a different defenseman than what they had there. And Darnell Nurse was carrying everything up there on both ends.
30 minutes a night.
Yeah. Now Ekholm can take some of that relief, and he plays such a hard game. He's such a good defenseman. I think that was a great pickup for them.
I know that there's no way to know how it would have worked, but before the deadline, I know that Ak, you were like pumping the tires on Carlson, and Kev, you were for it too, and what that would have done. But I just thought Ekholm was the right fit there as a stay-at-home, responsible defenseman. Great positionally, is still in the prime of his career. It just made too much sense for them. I don't know, throttle wide open fifth gear with Carlson. I just don't know whether that would have worked.
Yeah. Well, it's turned out Ekholm has done a really good job and really has solidified that. But I to me, it's another mistake I made, which, I have never liked Corpusalo. Never, I just did not think he was a good goalkeeper. And he really has done a good job with LA. And, they've won a lot of games and have that unbeaten streak going, and they're playing, good hockey. They're finding goals. And, we talk all the time about, when your goalie's right, suddenly everything gets right. Yeah. And that's what's happened with LA.
I'm putting this up because I want to debate this because, okay, Jeannot has not done great since he was traded to Tampa, and Tampa gave up basically a first-round pick in Cal Foot and 1 through 5 over the next 3 years.
Okay, really good.
Jeannot may be great next year, like Brandon Hagel. Brandon Hagel was not good the year that they traded for him, and then the following year he was really great. So the payoff on that deal. But I'm just telling you right now, I know Tampa has slumped lately. They could lose the next 8 games, and they're still dangerous, and they will still be favored over Toronto. And
we saw that last night because that was a Tampa Bay playoff game last night. The Carolina thing, that's what they do, right? They find a way to shut down. And you're right. I mean, that game, the Buzztron picked Carolina to win because Carolina has owned Tampa in the for the most part in recent years, in the regular season at least. But
Buzztron's heading out to the field.
No, the Buzztron went 4-6 last night, Russ. You're right. But think about the games they lost. Boston to, Who would think that Detroit would beat Pittsburgh?
Now you're going to make excuses for the
Buzztron. There were a lot of crazy games last night. But anyway, here's what I want to say about this. To me, it's a slam dunk with Korpisalo and Gavrikov. And here's why I wanted to bring it up with Joe. This is the trade that if the Sabres made it, would have really would have put them in the playoffs, because I think that puts it in the playoffs, because the playoff spot has been theirs to lose with all the other teams not playing so well. If they have Korpisalo, which fills that hole, and Gavrikov, which fills that hole, they're a playoff team this year. And would you have given up a first-round pick for it? I think yes.
I want to see. This is like the awkward year for Buffalo. Like I think if this was next season and if they were still having goaltending issues like this next season, there's a bigger problem to have there. But I think I don't know this for sure, but I think there might have been some debate about Korpisalo because the track record wasn't great. He was having a solid year with a bad team, but you're kind of thinking, well, maybe he's just hot. Maybe that's the case. But I mean, hot or not, he's played outstanding in LA. I don't know, because they were looking for a defense. They picked up Riley Stillman, and Stillman's played pretty well for him.
Yeah.
But I think. I don't know. I mean, I agree. I think you add those two guys, it's a different story. Yeah. I mean, they've lost 11 of the last 15, which is nuts. Win half of those games.
Right.
They're in the driver's seat.
And the Kings are 9-0-3 in their last 12.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Kings are also a better team, but
they're a better team.
I agree. Yeah.
But I do think that puts the Sabres in the playoffs, and I do think getting the Sabres into the playoffs is important enough.
I think
I agree with that to a point, but the long-term vision of what they've got in store means not right now not giving up the first round pick or the prospect or whatever. This summer draft time, if there's a defenseman, or if they think there's a top goalie to kind of bridge the gap between Levi,
right?
Maybe that's the move you make then, because I mean we obviously know they were hot for a defenseman. They were in on Chychrun. Coyotes just didn't want to eat any money, which is kind of funny when you think about it, that they're asking the Coyotes to eat money.
I just don't think this is winning the Kings around. I think they're looking better right now. They're hot right now. I think once they get a real opponent in the first round, they're done.
Well, I mean, first round they're going to play somebody else in their division. So is that a real?
It could be them in Edmonton. So I mean,
depends how it all plays out, right? And so I think the reality is pretty interesting to me. Like, I honestly think that puts the Sabres in. And the more I think about it, it's just like whenever I've heard Mike complain about the Sabres, which is done almost daily,
with every breath.
Right.
No,
but these are the two kinds of guys they needed to get.
Well, no, and Joe, this is the thing. It's like, I mean, because I'd have Sabre fans who are longtime Sabre friends. They're friends of mine, and their level of frustration this year after being tantalized by Thompson and Cousins and the year that they had, and that they were so close that, giving up a prospect to get a goaltender to upgrade didn't seem like that much of a sacrifice to get this team, if not in the playoffs, then challenging for a playoff spot. And really, I don't, at this point, I don't consider them a challenger for a playoff spot because they're 5 points out. The chances of them making the playoffs are like 1%.
Something I brought up on another.
If you have that view of it where you're thinking like, we have to make the playoffs this year or else it's never going to happen, I think that's the view of it you get. This is the first year that they're knocking on the door of it, and they'll technically have a chance at it. If they're not going to be in this position next season, they're going to be in a much better position next year, ideally, of course. But this is a team, they're just starting now. Like this is not a make it or else it's doomed for the next 15 years type of thing. I know it stinks to miss out if you're close, but they're going to be in a much better position next season. They're going to be so much better off.
And when you say the most valuable player on this team is Matthias Samuelsson because they don't seem to win and be able to win unless he's in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy correlation to make. Their record's not great without him in the lineup, but to me, he's the guy that brings balance back there.
There's something weird going on too in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's only 2 teams in each division that have a record that's above 500.
Yeah.
For in each division, so it's Toronto and Boston are playing well, and it's the Rangers and Islanders that are playing well there. I mean, I think the Flyers might be 5-4-1, but it's just odd that there's only like 2 teams in each division really kind of playing at their highest level. Everyone else is right around 500 or below 500.
And
the Devils have sagged.
Yeah, and even though they are over 500, Kev, I pointed it out yesterday. Since the trade deadline, it's lose, win for Toronto. It's up and down, back and forth. There's no consistency there, but you have to sort of write it off. Like, I mean, Boston lost at home in regulation to Nashville. This is the dog days of the NHL season. Right now, these teams are probably focused on one thing: staying healthy to get to the playoffs.
NHL right now, the highest score in the NHL right now is Saros, hands down. Like he's like won 7 in a row. I heard, or if I got the number right.
Does it matter?
It does matter because people are always getting on like if Saros is capable of doing this. Like he has been. But he
wasn't capable of getting into the playoffs though.
No, but if ever there was a game that you would argue that Saros is not the right goalie for, it's shutting out Boston in Boston.
Well, it was also the Stanley Cup. He wasn't good against Pittsburgh.
But Ak, my point is that Boston is not motivated right now. I mean, give Saros credit that they won, but Boston right now is like, okay, we're in like second gear. We're getting ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. They still shot the Predators, and it's still like, and Saros made some incredible saves in that game. So I mean, and the reality is he's been good, and he's got the Predators actually in this race, which is kind of nuts. Like
they're not in it.
I think
they are in this race.
I think the hand injury to Matt Duchene ended any realistic.
Matt Duchene
they're more in the rat race than they're in this. I wanted to mention that in the chat room they were talking about Chychrun, and Mike and I were kind of dubious on what you're giving up for Chychrun. I do question whether he's an elite defenseman based on injury, based on all the other stuff. He's played 12 games, he's got 5 points, he's a -1. I think he has been overhyped. I do.
He missed some time. It's hard to say. Go ahead, Mike. We got to get going, but I want to do one thing.
Go ahead. If you have something, go ahead.
No. I just want to go into the races for a second here with the HockeyBuzzcast thing.
All right, just because I wanted to ask around the horn something, but we'll do it after.
I want to do that first, Mike. Go ahead.
The rumor coming out regarding Evgeny Kuznetsov asking for a trade from Washington. Kev, based on what has happened with Kuznetsov over the last couple of years, obviously banned by the IIHF to play in international events, and obviously he's not going to play because Russia is not involved anymore. But and I mean, at his best, he's a really good number 2 center, but he's being paid a lot. He's got a lot of term on his contract. I don't know whether that contract is really movable.
No, I agree with you, and it's. I think Washington's going to do a lot this summer. I think we're going to see a major shakeup with the Capitals. I think they feel they've gone as far as they can go with this group, and obviously they've got Ovechkin. But so we're not talking about a complete rebuild, but I think they're going to try to shake it up a little bit. So I mean, I'm sure they'll try to accommodate that because I don't think they're in love with him either. So
yeah, but Kuznetsov has already shot that down in an article. I saw Sammy Silva wrote something where he's just like, people are just writing this, so it doesn't seem like he asked anything.
It was a quote out of his mouth in a Russian. So yeah, he may be disputing it right now, but it was out there, Russ.
You have to wonder though in a Russian paper, you do have to wonder.
Sure. Now, Joe, the thing about the Capitals right now is their approach before the deadline was, if you want to sign with us, we'll sign you. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, Dylan Strome, Nick Jensen, and if you don't want to sign, who is it? Connor Sheary. And if you don't want to sign with us, we're trading your ass. We traded Hathaway, we traded Orlov. That was their approach. Based on what Kevin said and based on what I have been reading about them, they're going to continue that in the summer. And I don't know if that means Backstrom's retiring or what, but they really, I think they're going to be a team on the move.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've got cap considerations to get their house in order way in advance. I mean, looking ahead at next year, what is it? 17 players signed, and they got $7 million in projected cap space. Yeah. You got to figure your stuff out before you get to July, July 1st. So you got to know who's in or who's out. And if guys are going to haggle you about things, and it's kind of like, all right, man, sorry, if you don't want to get this squared away now, we got to move because we got a lot of stuff to take care of. So I get it, but I mean, geez, this is the spot where teams like this and even Pittsburgh to a degree are in because they're trying to hang on while they've still got their number one guys around, and you have to stay in the playoff race. You cannot try to rebuild on the fly when you've got Crosby and Malkin in Pittsburgh and Letang and Ovechkin and Backstrom. I don't think Backstrom's ready to hang it up yet. I think he's pretty motivated after having his hip taken care of.
Right.
Okay. 1 second. I just had to do this real quick. Sorry. Little issue here on the home front. Okay. All right. So here we go. The Hockey Buzz. Buzztron. Here we go. I'm going to share the screen. Sorry. Can I share it right? What am I doing, Mike? Can you share it back? You can share it back, right?
I'm not touching it.
Okay, never mind. All right, I got it right here. I'm sorry. All right, so here's the deal. All right, time out. This is it, right? Is it? No, here it is. Damn it. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I had it all set up, and then Mike.
There we go. All
right, here we go. Ready? All right, so, all right, here we go.
There we go.
All right, so last night the Hockey Buzztrons. There's the Hockey Buzztron stats for the season. 119 correct, 73 wrong, 62% right now. Still clipping along pretty well. Yesterday,
FanDuel, money.
Yesterday, 4 correct, 6 wrong. But that was the fourth night this season of we had a losing night. Only the fourth night. 17 winning nights, 4 even nights. Tonight's picks, just real quick: Minnesota, Colorado winning, Florida, Toronto winning in overtime, New York Islanders winning at Washington.
Of course.
Those aren't hard ones, but we'll see what happens. The updated projected standings. So this is what's interesting here. The bubble, if you look at the way this plays out, Buffalo now ahead of Florida in the projections.
Joe, this is where the Buzztron is off whack. Right. I looked at the Sabres schedule, and 5 games in the last 7 days is an absolute killer for them.
Yeah. It's a lot of road games, and that means they'd have to go 7-1-1. Yeah, I think to close out the season. That's the kind of heater you need to get to make
honestly, pretty crazy. And it is the.
I mean, I will tell you this: there's a goalie on Buffalo who did this before. Craig Anderson.
That's right.
Did that before, and he beat the Flyers on the last game of the season to get in the playoffs, but he's too old to do it.
Can they sign Andrew?
I don't think he's playing 9 games.
But the teams they're playing are very beatable.
Like is the Hamburglar available?
They got through the hard things. Pittsburgh falling back a little bit, as you see here. So the other division, which is really Florida. This is the furthest Florida's been out of it so far. This is tonight. If they can win tonight, that would give them a point because remember the Buzztron.
They don't win tonight, they're completely out of it.
Right. If they can get 2 points tonight, then they're right back in it. But that would be a tough one for sure. Then the Western Conference, real quick, is the. If you look at this.
Colorado running away.
Colorado running away with this thing for sure. right now, Edmonton looks like they're going to, the way this is playing out, we are going to see what we want to see, which is the LA Kings Las Vegas battle in the second round, the first round, I mean. But here's the interesting thing. Calgary, after predicting the win yesterday, which they did indeed get.
Seattle
I think the Buzztron has Canadian parts because there's no way Calgary's getting in.
Seattle is not missing. Seattle is not missing.
Yeah, Nashville, look at this. 1 point back in the projections right now. 1 point back.
The Mike Tron 10,000 says Seattle is not missing.
All right. Kevin, you have any comments about this?
A bet.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think Calgary does have a shot, after last night's big win. So,
yeah. I agree. I do agree. And I think that, so will we see who are wild card teams? Do we think they're going to be Pittsburgh and the Islanders? Do we think it's Pittsburgh and Florida?
I went with Pittsburgh, Florida. The Islanders are in a real good spot right now. It's going to be hard.
It's Pittsburgh and the Islanders, much to my chagrin.
Yeah,
I agree with that too. Yeah, Florida's making a gallant run at Buffalo. I mean, they've just been too schizophrenic, so I can't.
Yeah, Buffalo. But this shows how much that if they had just a little bit, if they had played half decent, like you said, Joe, during the last little bit, they would have.
Yeah, geez, I don't know. Beat Vancouver and Arizona at home earlier.
Right. These are the things.
There's so many
wow. Philly game,
how do you not do that stuff with their schedule? So
yeah, Philly game too.
Yeah,
these points is crazy. All right. I appreciated that. So we'll see what happens tonight. These are 3 games, only 3 games tonight. So I don't know why it's so light tonight. But remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow.